Tonight's theme is the paranormal, not the theatrical kind, not the kind that announces itself with fire and noise. The kind that moves quietly, that learns your routines, that waits. 3 people sent me what happened to them, and I want to address the third story before we begin, because the detail at the end of it, the specific detail, is the kind of thing that tends to follow people. Not the story. The detail itself. Most viewers don't finish it. Stay with me. The renter. I moved into the Briar Hollow apartment complex in Lexington, Kentucky in early October of 2019. Second floor, Unit 214. I'd transferred for work, supply chain logistics, and I didn't know anyone in the city yet. That part matters. The building was older. 1970s construction, the kind with thick concrete walls and hallways that held on to cold air even in summer. My unit had been vacant for 3 months before I took it. The property manager mentioned that casually, like it was nothing. 3 months vacant in a building where the wait list was supposedly 6 weeks long. I didn't ask why. The first few weeks were fine. Unremarkable. I worked long hours, ate dinner at my desk, went to bed around 11. My schedule was consistent to the point of being mechanical. Same time up. Same commute. Same route home. It started the second week of November. I came home from the office around 7:15, later than usual because of a conference call that ran over, and when I stepped into my apartment, I noticed the kitchen light was on. I keep the kitchen light off during the day. Always. I am particular about that in the way that people who live alone become particular about small things, because small things are how you know something has changed. I assumed I'd forgotten. I went to bed. It happened again 4 days later. Then again after that. Always the kitchen light. Never anything moved, never anything missing. Just the light. I had the locks changed. The property manager looked at me like I was being dramatic. Maybe I was. Then one evening I came home and sat down on my couch, and I had this feeling, not a sound, not a movement, just a feeling, that the air in the room was recently disturbed. Like someone had just left. The way a room feels when a conversation just ended. You know that feeling. You've had it. I sat very still for a long time. I started coming home at irregular times. Different hours. No pattern. I told myself it was to test whether the light would still be on. That was the rational explanation I gave myself. The light was always off when I came home unexpectedly. Only on when I arrived at my usual time. I started reviewing the building's entry logs. This complex used key fobs, and I requested the records under the pretense of a security concern. The property manager obliged. My fob had been scanned entering the building at 7:08 p.m. on 3 dates when I was still confirmed at my office across town. I have the printout. I still have it. I moved out in January. Gave 30 days notice. Didn't explain. I took a short-term furnished rental in a different part of the city and I started varying my routines on purpose, different grocery stores, different routes, dinner at random times. 6 months later, I bumped into my old property manager at a gas station off New Circle Road. I almost didn't stop. But I asked her, casually, who'd lived in 214 before me. She said it had been vacant for 3 months before I arrived. A long-term tenant before that. A man who'd lived there for 11 years. She said he'd died in the unit. In the kitchen. At around 7 in the evening. I paid for my gas and I drove away and I haven't gone back to that part of Lexington since. I don't know what was in that apartment. I don't know what was using my schedule. I just know that whatever it was punctual. That story came from a man in Kentucky who still has the key fob printout, still carries it in his car, he said, because he hasn't decided what it proves yet. 14 miles past Childress. I was driving US Route 287 through the Texas Panhandle in August of 2021. Solo trip. I was relocating from Amarillo to Fort Worth after my marriage ended. One car, 2 suitcases, a dog named Porter who was asleep across the back seat. It was just past 2 in the morning. I know that specifically because I checked my phone when Porter woke up and started growling. He'd been asleep for 3 hours. He didn't growl at weather or other cars or loud trucks. Porter was 12 years old and largely indifferent to the world. But he was standing in the back seat, stiff, facing the passenger window. There was nothing outside. Flat scrubland. A fence line. Dark. I kept driving. About a mile further, my headlights caught something on the shoulder of the road. A figure. Standing. Facing away from traffic, which is unusual. Most people on the roadside face toward oncoming cars. This person had their back to me. I slowed. I don't know why. I should have kept speed. As I came alongside them, they turned their head. Not their body. Just the head. Rotating further than felt natural, past the point where a neck should stop. I accelerated. Porter did not stop growling for 11 minutes. I timed it. I told myself it was a trick of the headlights. Tired eyes. 2 a.m. on a long flat road. The mind will build shapes out of shadows when you give it enough dark and enough silence. I'd been under enormous stress. The divorce had been ugly. I hadn't slept properly in weeks. All of that is true. Then I looked in the rear view. The figure was in the road behind me. Standing in the center lane. Still. And even at distance, in the fading reach of my tail lights, it was facing me. I drove 90 miles an hour until I hit Childress. I pulled into a Stripes convenience store on Commerce Street and sat in the parking lot with every door locked and Porter in my lap until 5:30 in the morning. The attendant inside watched me through the window for a while, then went back to his phone. I filed what I saw under sleep deprivation and kept moving. But here's the thing I keep returning to, and I've thought about this for 2 years, and I still don't have an answer. The figure was standing 14 miles past Childress when I passed it. I had been driving away from Childress. That was 14 miles behind me. Whatever I saw, it was not moving toward town. It was 14 miles out on an empty road at 2 in the morning, standing still, facing away from everything. Like it was waiting for something coming from the other direction. I check my mirrors more than I used to. Not because I think I'll see it again. But because some part of me, some quiet, animal part of me, is not entirely sure I won't. Porter died that December. Old age, the vet said. He'd had a long life. I like to think the growling was him protecting me. Doing one last thing. I try not to think about what he was growling at. 270 miles of Texas highway, and whatever that was is still out there, stationary, patient, facing whatever comes next. The third story is closer to home than either of the first two. Much closer. What my son drew. My son Eli turned 6 in March of 2022. He is a normal kid, loud, funny, obsessed with dinosaurs, afraid of the drain in the bathtub. I tell you that because I want you to understand that what he started drawing that spring was not in his character. Eli draws dinosaurs. He draws race cars. He draws our dog. In April, he started drawing a figure. Same figure every time. Tall, He always used the full length of the page vertically for this one. Thin. No facial features except for 2 marks where eyes might be, both drawn as horizontal lines, not circles. Standing posture, but with the arms, if they were arms, positioned too low on the body, hanging past where hands should be. He drew this figure at least 20 times over 6 weeks. We live in a suburb of Columbus, Ohio. My husband travels for work, he's in medical device sales, and I work from home as a freelance copywriter. Our neighborhood is the kind that has a Facebook group for lost cats and a community Easter egg hunt. Nothing unusual. Nothing had ever been unusual. I asked Eli who the figure was. He said it was the man who watched him sleep. We searched his room. Every closet, under the bed, the window, secured with the original locks from when we moved in. Nothing. We installed a camera in his room. I reviewed footage every morning. For 3 weeks, there was nothing but my son sleeping. Then, on a Tuesday in late May, Eli slept over at his grandmother's house. We do this once a month. She's 40 minutes away in Westerville, and they both love it. My husband was traveling. I was alone in the house. I checked the camera app out of habit at 2 a.m. Eli's room was empty, which it should have been. But the camera, this is a standard Wi-Fi baby monitor, the kind with night vision, the camera was showing the room in night vision mode. Green-gray. The bed, the bookshelf, the window. And there was a figure standing in the corner opposite the bed. Tall. Thin. Arms low. I screamed. I actually screamed, alone in my house at 2 in the morning, and I ran to Eli's room and threw the door open and the room was empty. The corner was empty. Just his dresser. His dinosaur poster. I called my mother-in-law. Eli was asleep. He was fine. I pulled up the camera footage and scrubbed back through it. The figure appeared in the recording at 1:58 a.m. It stood in the corner for 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Then it moved. Not toward the door. Not toward the window. It moved to the bed. Eli's empty bed. And it stood over it. For another 47 seconds. Then the night vision flickered, and the corner was empty again. I have watched that footage perhaps 100 times. I've shown it to 3 people I trust. One of them works in IT and understands cameras better than I do. He watched it twice, said nothing, and handed my phone back to me. We moved Eli's room to the other side of the house. New camera. New locks. The figure has not appeared in the footage since. But here is the thing that keeps me from sleeping. The thing I haven't told anyone but my husband. The night it appeared on camera, the night Eli wasn't home, I walked back to my own bedroom afterward. I was shaking. I sat on the edge of my bed with all the lights on. And I looked at the wall above my headboard. In pencil, faint, uneven, the way a child presses when they're trying not to be noticed, was the figure. Drawn on my wall. Eli had never been allowed to draw on walls. He knew that. And the drawing was high up, higher than he could reach. I haven't told Eli it was there. I painted over it the next morning. Sometimes I think about what the figure was doing in those 47 seconds. Standing over an empty bed. And I think about whether it knew the bed was empty. Or whether it didn't. 3 accounts tonight. A man whose schedule was known by something that had no reason to know it. A woman who drove away from something standing on an empty highway at 2 in the morning. And a mother who found proof, not a feeling, not an impression, but physical proof, that something had been in her home. Standing over a bed. Learning it. I want to ask you something. and I want you to think about it honestly before you answer. Have you ever been in a room, your room, a familiar room, and felt, with complete certainty, that the air had just changed? That something had just been there. If you have, and I think more of you have than will admit it, leave it in the comments. Not what it was. Just where. Just when. New stories arrive every night. Subscribe if you want them. And if you drew something as a child that you can't quite explain, maybe don't go looking for it.